Yeah.
If you have plans this Saturday, you need to cancel them because you won't want to miss any of the action in Week 12. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, breaking down our top 5 biggest games of Week 12. And after a Week 11 that saw no ranked versus ranked matchups, a Week 11 that saw 15 games get postponed or canceled, Week 12 feels like Christmas came early because we have so many huge matchups, games that will greatly shape individual conference title races, games that will shape the college football playoff races, or in some cases, both. So many games that I can promise you do not want to miss, and we are here to break down our top 5, give our analysis and our predictions for each, and really why you need to pay attention to these all day on Saturday. So let's start up here with our first game of the week, and that is number 9 Indiana and number 3 Ohio State. If I take that back. I never thought I would say number 9 Indiana and number 3 Ohio State is one of the top games of the week, and the winner of this game is probably going to win the Big Ten East. Never thought I would have said that. Ohio State might have been in that statement. Never in a million years did I think Indiana would be in there. It's been a wild year, guys. And Indiana has been one of the best stories in all of college football. The Hoosiers and the Buckeyes are the 2 undefeated teams left in the Big Ten East, which is why this game is such a big deal. The funny thing is, when you take a look at this game, despite being the 9th ranked team in the country, despite having defeated Penn State in Week 1 and shutting out Michigan State and playing very, very well over the past 4 weeks, Indiana has only been given a 10% chance to win by the Football Power Index. I don't know. I know it's Ohio State. I know it's on the road, but I think 10%, that's a little disrespectful. Because Indiana, this team is for real. This team is for real. And I love the offense, but I love the defense even more. And that could be what maybe propels the Hoosiers to win in this game. The defense is allowing just 19.3 points per game, 209.8 passing yards per game, 111 rushing yards per game. All in all, this team is solid, very, very sound. They just shut out Michigan State the week before, this past week. They have 12 turnovers this season. They're averaging 3 turnovers per game that they forced. This defense, they're ball hawks, man. Tom Allen has done a phenomenal job building up this program in Bloomington, and now they're playing in maybe one of the biggest games in Indiana football history. Problem is, Ohio State's on the other end of it. The Buckeyes, we all know who they're led by. Justin Fields, a guy who's leading an offense that's averaging 511.3 yards per game. And what's even more impressive to me, and the crazier stat here, is that Justin Fields has more total touchdowns, 13 total touchdowns, than he does incompletions. Fields having thrown just 11 incompletions all season long. That's unreal. Unreal. 11 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, absolutely a Heisman Trophy contender. He leads the offense with 302.7 passing yards per game. The Buckeyes, very balanced as well, 208.7 rushing yards per game to go along with that. This offense is very, very dangerous. The defense, they've shown some weaknesses so far this season, but the offense has always been able to bail them out. That might not be the case on Saturday. I genuinely believe that Ohio State is in for a dogfight. Indiana is, in fact, going to be their toughest test of the season. Tougher than Penn State, probably tougher than Michigan. Might be the toughest test until Ohio State makes the Big Ten championship, if they can get past them. And I do think the Buckeyes get past the Hoosiers. Indiana has not defeated Ohio State since 1988. They've not defeated the Buckeyes since 1988. And while I do think the defense holds their own, I think Indiana's offense will struggle a little bit in this one. They're averaging less than 100 rushing yards per game. To beat the Buckeyes, you've got to find some balance. I think Ryan Day and this Buckeyes defense, they hone in on Michael Penix. They slow him down, force a few turnovers. Indiana's not going to be able to run the football, and Ohio State wins this game and ultimately wins the Big Ten East. But it's going to be close, closer than many think. Moving on to the American Athletic Conference, number 7, Cincinnati at Central Florida. This is not a top 25 matchup like we once hoped it would be, but this still has the caliber and the potential to be a top 25 matchup. It feels like a top 25 matchup. This is obviously a bigger game for Cincinnati than it is for Central Florida. The Knights already have 2 losses. Cincinnati, they're hoping to get into the playoff. They're hoping to somehow get into the college football playoff. They're 7th in the country. They're annihilating their opponents left and right. This is a big game for them. And this would be a huge resume-boosting win for them. It's interesting, though. The FPI making another interesting decision. Indiana only gets 10% chance to beat Ohio State. Central Florida has been given a 56.4% chance to defeat the 7th-ranked team in the country. So they're leaning Central Florida's way here. We're not. I'm not. I like Cincinnati in this one. This is a battle between Cincinnati's defense and Central Florida's offense. The Cincinnati defense allowing 12.4 points per game and just 301.1 yards per game versus Central Florida's offense that's averaging 44 points per game and an insane 619.1 yards per game. So, which one's going to give? Well, if you look back last year, I know last year is last year, but Cincinnati, at home, took down Central Florida 27-24. They were able to force some turnovers. Their defense showed up. They showed out. People could feel it. They felt the tide was about to turn in favor of the Bearcats. They showed up. They showed out. They got the win. I know the game is down in Orlando. It's a very, very difficult place to play. But look at how well Cincinnati's been playing over the past few weeks. They've taken down SMU, Memphis, Houston, all very solid offensive teams. They defeated those 3 teams by an average of 32 points. I mean, they shut down their offenses, and Cincinnati's offense showed up along with their defense. Desmond Ridder is extremely hot right now. He's taking fantastic care of the football, and his dual threat ability is showing a lot more than it has in recent games. Not to mention that Central Florida is allowing 447.9 yards per game. Their defense is a lot worse, a lot more shaky than Cincinnati's, and I think Luke Fickell and the Bearcats understand the importance of this game. They understand it's a trap game. Trust me, this was a very tough game to pick. They know it's going to be a trap game. They know this is probably the best offense they have faced. Better than SMU, better than Memphis. But in the end, they know they've got to win, and they've got to win convincingly if they want to keep their playoff hopes alive. And I think they do that on the road. This is a huge resume-boosting win. It's not over a ranked opponent, but we know what Central Florida is capable of. And in a game that I think is relatively close, a game where I think you see a lot of points scored, Cincinnati's defense will be exploited, but the Bearcats' defense comes up strong in the end, and they remain undefeated and keep those playoff hopes alive. Again, back to the Big Ten. We got the Big Ten East Championship right up there at the top, Indiana, Ohio State. You've got the Big Ten West Championship below that with Wisconsin, number 10, taking on number 19, Northwestern. Again, I didn't think that I would be saying Northwestern would be Big Ten title contenders. The West, both divisions have had so many disappointing teams. The East, Michigan, Penn State, major letdowns. The West, Minnesota, not very good. Iowa, struggling. Nebraska, we didn't expect them to be contenders, but still, not looking too hot under Scott Frost. So here we are, Wisconsin, number 10, Northwestern, number 19. Winner probably faces the winner of Indiana and Ohio State in the Big Ten title game. And can you imagine if it were Indiana and Northwestern? We're getting ahead of ourselves, but think about it. Look at this game, though. I think this game between Wisconsin and Northwestern has the chance to be even better than Ohio State, Indiana. Because last year, Wisconsin was a dang good football team. And they only beat a Northwestern team that was 3-9 by season's end. They only beat them 24-15 in Madison. Neither team could move the ball very well. If Wisconsin doesn't get a couple of defensive touchdowns and big defensive turnovers, Northwestern, who knows? Maybe they win that game. They only lost by 9 last year in Madison. Now they come down to Northwestern. This game is going to be close. This game is going to be close. Because unlike last year, Northwestern has an offense. They've got the Indiana transfer quarterback in Peyton Ramsey. 723 yards, 6 touchdowns on the year. Wisconsin, they unfortunately for Northwestern have a quarterback now too. Graham Mertz, who has 375 yards and 7 touchdowns in just 2 games this year. So this is going to be a battle, I think, between which quarterback can play the best, which running game can find the most success, which I would probably lean towards Wisconsin right now. But ultimately, you're not watching this game because of the offense, and we know the offense probably isn't going to decide the game. It's going to be the defense. Wisconsin's allowed 9 points per game through 2 games, so take that with a grain of salt. Northwestern, they've allowed just 14 points per game through 4 games. That's a little bit more of a sample size, larger sample size, and we can kind of take that with less of a grain of salt. We know a little bit more about Northwestern here. Each team's allowing less than 100 rushing yards per game, but if you're looking for the bad stat on either team, it goes to Northwestern. They're allowing 210 passing yards per game. Graham Mertz has shown us he takes great care of the football. Keep in mind, this guy's, a freshman? He just played his second collegiate game last week against Michigan. And, think about it, how big that game was, now how big this game is. This guy is going to be no stranger to the spotlight, to the big stage, to the big games. But so far, he has shown up, he has shown out, and I think he's been the missing piece that Wisconsin hasn't had for years, that has kept them from winning the Big Ten, that has kept them from making the playoff. I think Mertz shows up in this game. They exploit that Northwestern secondary, and in a game that's relatively low scoring, maybe as low scoring as last year, 24-15, so maybe a 24-20, 24-17 type game. I'm siding with Wisconsin. They've got the better quarterback. I think they've got a little bit better of a rushing edge. And I think size and physicality-wise, they also own that edge over the Wildcats. So in a close one, Wisconsin goes on the road and takes down Northwestern, one of the bigger surprise teams in all of college football, right on up there with Indiana. Over to the Big 12. That's how we're going to close with back-to-back Big 12 games here. Kansas State and number 17, Iowa State. Why is this game such a big deal? You look at this, it's not a ranked versus ranked matchup. If you know college football, you know Kansas State has been struggling a little bit. They've dropped their last two games to West Virginia and now Oklahoma State. So why is this game up here? Listen to the Big 12 standings right now. Up at the top is Iowa State. They're 5-1 in the conference. Followed by Oklahoma State, 4-1. Kansas State, 4-2. Oklahoma, 4-2. Texas, 4-2. If Kansas State beats Iowa State this Saturday, the Wildcats go to 5-2. Iowa State goes to 5-2. And you will certainly see some shifts and some changes in the conference standings based on whatever happens down here in Bedlam between Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. So this game is huge. If Iowa State wins this game, they practically clinch themselves a spot in the Big 12 title game. They almost clinch themselves a spot in the Big 12 title game if they take down the Wildcats. If not, we're going to see chaos within the conference. Unfortunately for some, I don't see chaos happening. Kansas State has won 10 straight games from 2008 to 2017. They won 10 straight over the Cyclones before Matt Campbell and Iowa State snapped that streak in 2018. Kansas State did defeat Iowa State 27-17 in last year's season finale. I don't think that's going to happen again. I think Iowa State comes out, a little bit of revenge, they're a little angry, and we should also keep in mind that during that 10-game winning streak for Kansas State, 10 of the last 12 games, or at least a lot of those games, and now 10 of the last 12 games, have been decided by one possession between the Cyclones and the Wildcats. I look at Kansas State. They were up as high as the 16th ranked team in the country just a few weeks ago. Then they lost to West Virginia by 27. They lost to Oklahoma State by 2, thanks to blowing a 12-point halftime lead and not being able to convert on 2-point conversions. Can't do that, you're not going to win. So Kansas State has slowly fallen off after being towards the top of the standings. They still could get in there. But Will Howard, the freshman quarterback who had to replace Skylar Thompson, hasn't been playing too well. Already has 5 interceptions this year. Deuce Vaughn, kind of the big phenom star for Kansas State, he's been slowed down during the last few weeks. And I think Iowa State's defense has what it takes to slow him down again. When you look at the Cyclones, yeah, they turned the ball over a lot against Baylor. Had 3 interceptions from Brock Purdy against the Bears, and they were lucky to escape, beating Baylor 38-31. They've got to improve there. But when I look at the game as a whole, Iowa State, to me, owns the defensive edge. They own the quarterback edge with Brock Purdy. And they absolutely own the rushing edge with Breece Hall, who's already rushed for 1,034 yards, 13 touchdowns. He's averaging 6.3 yards per carry, and he's now going up against the Kansas State defense that's allowing 161 rushing yards per game. When you look at the numbers, when you look at the track record, I like Iowa State in this one, especially with the game being in Ames. And with this win, the Cyclones should become a top 15 team, should crack that top 15. They're going to be 6-1 in conference, and they are practically guaranteed themselves a spot in the Big 12 championship game. And then finally, Bedlam. Gotta love it. To me, one of the better rivalries in all of sports, certainly one of the more underrated ones. We don't talk about it nearly enough. But number 14, Oklahoma State, at number 18, Oklahoma. Did you know how lopsided this series has been? I think when you look at this, you think, unless you're an Oklahoma State fan, maybe you don't know how dominant Oklahoma has been in this rivalry series. The Sooners have won 5 straight. They've won 5 straight against the Cowboys. Only one of those wins coming by 1 possession. That was back in 2018. Since 2000, Oklahoma State has only won 4 times against the Sooners. 2000. 20 years, they've won 4 times against Oklahoma. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And I know necessarily history doesn't have to play a role on Saturday. What happened in the past doesn't mean that's going to happen again this Saturday. But it is something to keep in mind. And another thing you got to keep in mind is how both teams are playing right now. Oklahoma State, they survived Kansas State a couple weeks ago. Both teams are coming off a bye week. They survived Kansas State a few weeks ago, the week after they lost in heartbreaking fashion to Texas in overtime. Oklahoma, they've won 4 straight games since they started 1-2. That includes that quadruple overtime thriller over Texas, blowout win over Texas Tech, blowout win over Kansas, blowout win over TCU. The Sooners are rolling right now. Granted, Oklahoma State is going to be the best team they faced since they narrowly escaped Texas. But a major reason for Oklahoma's success over these past 4 games has been the improved play of Spencer Rattler. This is a guy that has 10 total touchdowns over the last 4 games. 10 total touchdowns to just 2 interceptions. And he's completing 63.2% of his passes. Earlier in the year, when they lost to Kansas State, when they lost to Iowa State, people were criticizing Rattler. He was doing a horrible job taking care of the football. He was never going to be a Kyler Murray, a Baker Mayfield, a Jalen Hurts. Lincoln Riley has failed. Not the case anymore. Rattler is consistently improving. He's doing a great job doing so, and I would expect his success to continue against Oklahoma State, even though the Cowboys arguably still have the best defense within the Big 12. Arguably. They're allowing 17.8 points per game, and they're allowing under 170 passing yards per game. So this defense, this secondary, not too bad. Oklahoma will have their hands full when they're trying to throw the ball against the Cowboys. But what I look at the end is Oklahoma State's offense. I have no doubt in my mind, an Oklahoma team that's averaging over 500 yards per game, no doubt in my mind that Lincoln Riley can come up with a way to move the ball and move it effectively. No doubt in my mind. My question is, can Oklahoma State's offense do the same against an Oklahoma defense that certainly isn't getting enough attention? I know the stats could be skewed because they've played inferior opponents. Kansas, not that impressive. Texas Tech, not really. TCU, they're struggling. So I get that. During this 4-game winning streak for Oklahoma, they haven't played the best type of opponents. But the Sooners are allowing 98.6 rushing yards per game this season. Under 100 yards. You bottle up Chuba Hubbard, that's going to be an issue for the Cowboys. You keep Spencer Sanders in the pocket, don't allow him to scramble, make plays with his feet, that's going to be a problem. He did not have a good game last time out against Kansas State. And the way I look at it is Alex Grinch and Oklahoma, they know what's at stake here. They know if they win, they're 5-2 in the conference. Oklahoma State's 4-2 in the conference. And Oklahoma, with a win here, could get really dang near close to getting into the Big 12 championship, getting very close to locking that up, depending on how the rest of the conference fares. Now look at this. They're hot. They have the better offense. Right now, in my opinion, the defense is playing well. In Oklahoma State, I think that Texas loss demoralized them. They were lucky to come back and take down Kansas State. But with the week of rest, considering the history, it's on the road, I'm going with the Sooners here. I'm going with Lincoln Riley. And after everybody wrote them off after the 1-2 start, they will now be riding a 5-game winning streak and might very well make the Big 12 championship. Again, something we didn't think was going to happen many, many weeks ago. So guys, there you have it. Brief analysis on our top 5 games of the week. Keep in mind, we are going to have Game of the Week analysis on 2 of these games. One coming out on Wednesday, one coming out on Friday. So deeper analysis on 2 of these games. Make sure you don't miss it. But this is must-see football. These are games that are, like we said, going to shape the Big 12. They're going to shape the Big 10. For teams like Ohio State and Cincinnati and maybe even Wisconsin, these games are going to affect their college football playoff berths. Even Indiana. If Indiana were to take down Ohio State, they are absolutely college football playoff contenders. So much is at stake in Week 12. Week 11, it was lackluster. We were tired. We didn't like it. It was boring. Week 12 has gifted us with another great weekend of college football. One that in a year like 2020, you know is going to be filled with tons of upsets and some of the best moments so far this season. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share our videos. And as always, check out everything down in that description below. Everything down there is for you guys, the diehard college football fan. Whether it's our weekly newsletter we try to send out on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Our expert picks, we're hitting over 60% of our bets over the last 5 weeks. You can sign up for those on our website as well. Whether it's the Bet Now promo code, whether it's our Patreon account, whatever it is, it's extra analysis, it's extra content, it's extra offers, all college football related for you guys year round. I promise you don't want to miss it, so go check it out right down there, down in the description. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.